peer into local school practices around gender and race. And tonight is the big night. It's the night that many in politics have been waiting for. And that's the night where Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will be meeting for the very first time. And they will be meeting on a debate stage in Philadelphia, a debate that will be broadcast before the entire nation on ABC. It starts at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and KBLA is hosting one of the listening parties. You'll be able to tune in to KBLA tonight at 6 p.m. PST, listen to the debate, and then participate in a talkback with Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima. And in other news today, Trump has made explosive and expansive claims, some would say, about the power of tariffs, including that they will help pay for child care, combat inflation, finance a U.S. sovereign wealth fund, and help preserve the dollar's preeminent role in the global economy. Now, economists are incredibly skeptical of many of these assertions. They say while tariffs can generate some level of revenue, in many cases they could create just a small amount of funding needed for these very big and ambitious programs. And Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on Israeli security forces to make fundamental changes in the way they operate in the occupied West Bank. These are the strongest comments yet from a U.S. official after the Israeli military admitted that it was highly likely that it had unintentionally shot dead an American Turkish citizen at a demonstration last week. And a day after Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill was detained and handcuffed by police shortly before his team's season opener, Miami-Dade police released body cam footage of the incident. The Dolphins subsequently said that the video shows that there are officers who mistake their responsibility and commitment to serve with misguided power. Hill himself was on CNN last night and said he could have been shot and killed by police in what should have been a routine traffic stop, which resulted in him being forced out of his vehicle, forced to the ground, handcuffed, and detained, proving that it doesn't matter if you are a Black athlete with a whole lot of money to a lot of police officers, you are just a threat as a Black man. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' election police unit is investigating alleged fraud in signature gathering for the state's upcoming abortion referendum in a move that critics say is designed to intimidate voters. In the past week, two people reported that they had been contacted by a Florida Department of Law Enforcement by these officers really arriving at their home and asking them about petitions they had signed months ago to add Amendment 4 to the November ballot. And Trump and Republicans are pushing swing state courts to reject mail in ballots. Yes, the GOP is back at it. They have a whole legal strategy in battleground states like Pennsylvania to use technicalities to throw out otherwise valid votes. Now, critics say this is just a form of voter suppression, but it's taking place in key states like Wisconsin, where voters are required to have witnesses sign their mail in ballots. Also, places like North Carolina, where Republicans are suing to throw out ballots in the inner secrecy envelope. Well, if the inner secrecy envelope isn't fully sealed. Also, Congress is set to grill former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, and that's about his administration's controversial directive to send more than 9,000 coronavirus infected people back into nursing homes in the earliest days of the pandemic, and other decisions he made that drew national scrutiny. The hearing comes more than 4 years after the order was issued and more than 3 years after Cuomo resigned as governor. This is a bipartisan investigation. Democrats themselves asking questions about Cuomo's administration. And House Speaker Mike Johnson's strategy to tie a short term government funding bill to a Donald Trump backed proposal to overhaul voting laws was on life support yesterday after a band of conservative rebels vowed to vote no on the package. Without a stopgap funding bill, money will run out and the administration will be forced to shut down. New Hampshire voters will head to the polls today for a primary that will set up the matchup for one of just two governors' races in presidential battleground states this year. On the Republican side, former Senator Kelly Ayotte has a substantial polling lead. Former state Senate President Chuck Morris in the race to replace outgoing GOP Governor Chris Sununu. As for the Democrats, former Manchester Mayor Joyce Craig will face off against Cindy Warmington, a former healthcare lobbyist and a member of the state's executive council. The race is very close for those two Democrats. And some folks are upset because the Country Music Awards, the nominations were announced yesterday, and one superstar was noticeably absent from the list. That superstar goes by the name of Beyonce. The singer released her first full country project, Cowboy Carter, in March. The Country Music Awards nominations were announced, and that superstar wasn't there, and a lot of fans are not happy about it. And finally, in the news today, former President Donald Trump repeated his false claim that children are undergoing transition related surgery during their school day, worsening fears among some conservatives that educators are pushing children to become transgender and aiding transitions without potential awareness. This is the news of the day, and this is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, it's girl power, it's female power, it's Black girl excellence, because Dr. Niambi Carter and Katrina Robinson are joining me to help break down today's news. And in hour two, it's all debate, it's all debate, it's all debate, because the biggest debate in this political cycle is happening at 6 p.m. PST today. As I said, KBLA is hosting a live talk back, a listening party. So you can stay tuned in after my show today at 6 p.m. The debate will be brought to you live on KBLA, and then Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima will be taking reactions from an audience in the studio. I'm at a DNC listening, watching party live from Los Angeles, joining a bunch of my fellow DNC delegates and party members of the California Democratic Party. As you know, Kamala Harris is a daughter of California. So when she does anything, California Democrats, we rally to her. We rally around her and show her support. So I'm going to be broadcasting live from one of the various DNC listening, watching parties that are happening all over the state of California and all over the country. I'm going to be joined in hour two by Aaron Call. He's the Dean of Students at the University of Michigan, and he's the Director of Debate of their debate program, and also a renowned debate coach expert. Alan Luden is going to join us. He's a former communications department chair at Wake Forest University. He's written the definitive book on political advertising. He has been a consultant to presidents on debates. He's actually hosted debates, and he is the man for all things presidential debate. So make sure you stick around for hour two, because these experts are going to help you understand how best to watch tonight's debate, what to be looking for, and really have us help us understand winners and losers. But before I bring on my guests, here's what I'm thinking in real time. I was in St. Louis over the weekend. You all know that's my hometown. And I was super excited to learn that the Missouri Supreme Court, since I left, took up a case today that restored to voters in the state of Missouri the right to choose whether you will be able to have an abortion or not. So there was a petition drive to collect over about 300,000 signatures to put the issue of abortion on the ballot in Missouri in November. And these folks worked really hard, thought they had all the signatures they needed, but they were told that they didn't, that the signatures didn't meet the requirements. And a lower court actually said the matter would not be on the ballot in November. Well, the Supreme Court for the state of Missouri said not so fast, and ruled that in fact the issue of abortion will be on the ballot. The court ordered Jay Ashcroft, he is the GOP Secretary of State, to put the measure back on the ballot. Ashcroft had removed it on Monday after, like I said, this lower court judge ruled that the signatures were invalid. Missourians for Constitutional Freedom, the campaign backing the measure to put abortion on the ballot, lauded the decision by the Supreme Court. They said Missourians overwhelmingly support reproductive rights, including access to abortion, birth control, and miscarriage care. Now they will have the chance to enshrine these protections in the Missouri Constitution on November 5th. Of course, lawyers for the GOP, groups that have been opposing this measure, are vowing to continue to push this matter through the court system, trying to deny Missourians the right to vote on abortion care. I am so proud of the Supreme Court in Missouri. I'm so proud of this group in Missouri, Missourians for Constitutional Freedom. I'm proud of all of the folks in my home state that signed that petition to put reproductive rights and abortion rights on the ballot in November. Missouri is a red, ruby red state. Although the city of St. Louis, the city of Kansas City are Democratic strongholds, most of the state is very conservative. This is the state that sent Josh Hawley to the U.S. Senate. Remember, that's the guy with the fist pump on the Insurrectionist Day, January 6th. This is a state that has been very hostile to women, to abortion rights, to people of color. So to have this ballot measure on the ballot for Missourians to vote on November 5th is huge. It's huge. And again, congratulations to every grassroots organizer, everyone that worked hard to make this a reality. And I just encourage folks in Missouri, go to the polls on November 5th and vote like you've never voted before, and enshrine women's rights to reproductive freedom, reproductive health care into the Missouri Constitution, and show the world that it doesn't matter if you're from a red state or a blue state. Women's rights to choose, are not a partisan issue. They are a humanitarian issue. They are health care related issues. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Everybody knows some woman, your wife, your mother, your daughter, your sister, somebody that will need at some point some kind of health care that might involve their reproductive organs, or just might involve rape or incest. I mean, we can think of any number of reasons a woman needs access to abortion care, birth control, and miscarriage care. So again, kudos Missourians for doing the right thing. Kudos Missouri Supreme Court for doing the right thing. Now let's go out there and enshrine abortion rights in the Constitution of Missouri on November 5th. When we come forward, more of today's breaking and trending news right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Work is busy, and home,
Mom!
pretty much the same. But you wouldn't know it because my skin doesn't look stressed thanks to Olay Retinol Body Wash. Its hydrating formula is packed with vitamin B3 complex plus retinol. I use Olay Retinol Body Wash to transform my skin from dry to moisturized and visibly renewed. Sure, I still have stress, but my skin looks amazing. Try Olay Retinol Body Wash for visibly renewed skin in just 14 days. Also try Retinol 24 Body Lotion.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your Black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and Dr. Niambi Carter is joining me as well as Katrina Robinson. And today is the big day, ladies. Some say this is like the Super Bowl of politics, and we know the way the media has been reporting about it. It's like a big prize fight where they're, try to get both sides super hyped up and make sure that there's not going to be some big knockout in the early rounds or some big runaway like we see in certain sporting events. But the reality is, Katrina, this isn't a sporting event. This is a very serious endeavor that's going to take place, this debate between Harris and Trump. And the outcome will impact the lives of hundreds of millions of people. So let's talk about the seriousness of this. Used to be that debates weren't thought about, no one thought they were that important to who would win or lose an election. But we saw that July debate with Biden and Harris, I guess it was Biden and Trump at the end of June, had enormous consequences. So what's riding on this tonight for both of these candidates?
I think a lot is riding on this tonight. VP Harris has the spotlight, of course, because this is the first time she gets to actually defend herself face to face to Trump and his attacks on her race, on her gender. And she actually gets to outline her policies and her framework, whereas people have been questioning that for the past couple of months. And I think this is also an opportunity for Americans to get an idea of how we level the playing field. Which candidate is the actual presidential candidate? Who looks presidential on the screen? Who can speak to the issues that affect Americans on a day-to-day basis? And who is going to have the same rhetoric and the same entertainment kind of centered debate that he's used to having? And this is the first time that he's actually had to face VP Harris. And so this is one of those times we're going to see if he's going to say the same thing that he says in her absence, in her presence. And, it's not going to go over well if he begins to insult a Black woman in front of the nation. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I think America has been waiting on this. It kind of reminds me of the old days when Mike Tyson used to fight. That's what it feels like. I feel that energy here. I'm in DC right now, so there are a lot of watch parties going on. People are very excited about it.
Yeah, Dr. Carter, Katrina just said it's not going to go over well if Trump insults a Black woman on national television, but Donald Trump insults Black women on national television pretty much every day.
Well, I mean, face-to-face, though.
I'm sorry.
Face-to-face. Face-to-face is a lot different.
Yeah, I don't know, Dr. Carter. We know that his base loves that. His base loves those kinds of, inflammatory comments. His base feeds off of that. And we know substantively he can't match her. So basically all he has are base attacks on her race, her gender. He's called her everything. He's called her stupid, which is the most ridiculous and bizarre comment, not to, offensive, of course, but just ridiculous. But what do you think? Do you think Trump, does what Trump does, which is go low and insults her personally, or does he try to act more presidential?
Well, I think if he listens to his debate coaches, he'll try to be more presidential. He'll try to stick to the issues and not do the personal attacks. But we know Trump doesn't have any discipline. I think this is the first time he's probably ever had to encounter a Black woman in such a space. Now, I will disagree. He did insult April Ryan to her face as a member of the press corps. And while other journalists said things to him, his base was just fine with it. He didn't see a drop off in support. And I don't think he will if he insults Kamala Harris. I think what will happen most is that people's level of seriousness with which they take him, the coverage of him might change a little bit, those kinds of things, because that's ultimately what really happens in debates. It doesn't change anyone's minds. Everyone is decided. I mean, the people who watch are the most politically engaged citizens. They're not most people. Undecided voters who have little interest or little engagement are not going to sit there tonight and devote hours of their life to this. But the post debate performance, the little clips that we can see on our social media pages, I mean, everybody is going to hear about this. So to the extent that he looks like um a petulant child, right, that could hurt him. But the insults, I mean, that's kind of par for the course. That's what he does, is insult people. And he's good at the zinger and the one liner. And that's also, I think, something to think about is, yes, it will be a strong performance. It needs to be a strong performance for Vice President Harris, but it may not be the shellacking we think, because Donald Trump is a kind of creature of the media and a production, right, of the media. He understands that aspect of it. He knows the good one liner. He knows how to get the zingers in there. And so I think we have to remember that as we are consuming this debate as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, Dr. Carter, because I think the expectations that people have are way too high. First of all, the
Mhm.
debate format does not give you the kind of time and the kind of space that you need to really take down Trump, other than using, as you said, those zingers and those one-liners. And when we've seen Kamala Harris at her best is when she's prosecuting the case, when she
Mhm.
was sitting there as a senator, at the DS asking those tough questions, when she had the floor and the other person was in the hot seat. This is a whole different format. And we know Kamala Harris is a very skilled debater, and we also know that she's a skilled trial lawyer. But the debate format is really set up for folks like Donald Trump more so than
Mhm.
Kamala Harris,
Mhm.
because the 2 minute. First of all, you get 2 minutes, and mostly we know Donald Trump doesn't answer the questions in those 2 minutes. He just gives a talking point, makes, as you said, a zinger, and then keeps it moving. So Kamala Harris, and what we saw Joe Biden, how he ended up, just really failing on his face, was he was trying to think and answer the questions. So the question I have, Katrina, does Kamala get herself in trouble by trying to be substantive, trying to talk about policies rather than just, matching him with his one-liners?
That was the point that I missed making before. One of the things that we have to be careful about tonight with VP Harris is her being able to speak in those sound bites, because, like Dr. Carter said, the average American who has been disengaged for so long, who's just coming back to the voting polls, who has not made up their mind whether they want to participate in this election, they're going to be looking at the post coverage, and the only thing the post coverage is going to get are those highlights from the debate. I mean, you have 2 minutes to rebut. Your opponent's mic is off, so where Donald Trump would normally put his foot in his mouth, he's kind of not as prone to do so. And then also, there's no live audience, so it's basically conversation, and it's timed, and it's um, regulated conversation. So she's got to be able to make her points. She's got to be able to hit the high notes on the platform, and she's got to be able to have those same one-liners in response to him, because people are looking for her to stand her ground against Donald Trump. They're looking for her to have those comebacks. They're looking for her to show up as a person who is not, as a person who is fearless. And that's going to be in those sound bites they're going to hear on the post-debate watch parties.
You know what I'm so concerned about, Dr. Carter and Katrina, is the coverage. We know
Mhm.
Donald Trump gets handled so differently than every other candidate. When he rambles, when he makes
Mhm.
incoherent statements, when he mixes up his wife with other people, when he makes those mistakes that Joe Biden made, which literally caused major newspapers to write editorials demanding that he step down, we didn't see that same response from Donald Trump. So there's been all this pressure on VP Harris. She's got to talk about her policy. She's got to
Mhm.
introduce herself to the American people. All these things she must do. And for Donald Trump, it's he just has to stand there and not drool. I mean, the standards are so different. And if he is quote unquote presidential, and for him that just means, not calling her a stupid, B or something like that, then he won. So the post coverage by the media is also going to influence a lot of what of who says, who did the best in this. And
Mhm.
we know the standards are so different, Dr. Carter, when you think about
Mhm.
how the media covers her and how they cover him.
And I would say the standards aren't different. The standards for Donald Trump are in hell, quite frankly. I mean, the bar for him is so low. And what you often see the media do is clap, right? Every time he puts his jacket on like a big boy. You know, it's this weird thing that they do. Now, as Black women, I think we are often used to that, right? Where the mediocrity of men is often applauded. And when they do a little something extra, it's like, oh my gosh, how spectacular. And meanwhile, women have been doing this. And it's like, what else do I have to do this in a headstand, right? You know, twirling the baton. And so I think that's something that many women can identify with. And I hope that that becomes clear, in the post-debate coverage. But again, like you said, the bar for Donald Trump is so low. We are just hoping, right, that he just stands there, or his handlers are hoping he can hold it together long enough, that he can stick to the talking points, that he can say something that doesn't sound totally insane, that doesn't just inflame a bunch of people, like some of the statements that were made about Haitians in Ohio by J.D. Vance and others this week. They're just hoping he can do the bare minimum. But I think this is where we have to hold the media's feet to the fire here, because the media has done this over and over again. They did it for him in 2016. They did it for him when he was doing it against Joe Biden. It's like he does the bare minimum, and we're supposed to be like, oh my God, he's so presidential. It's like, no, he acted like a grown-up for an hour. If you can't act like a grown-up for an hour, then you don't need to be the president of the United States. And so that's not going to be her yardstick, unfortunately. But I think this is when we have to call the media out. When we see things, the headlines that'll be crazy, we have to say something.
Yeah, when we come forward, got to talk about all the lies, because we know Donald Trump is going to lie pretty much every time he opens his mouth. He was not fact-checked in real time during the debate with Joe Biden. What are the moderators going to do today, given his propensity to tell lie after lie after lie? Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580, when we come forward.
More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Esther Dillard, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Miami-Dade police have released more than an hour and a half of body camera footage showing the traffic stop and detainment of Dolphin star wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Law enforcement veteran and forensic studies professor Dr. David Thomas partially defends the initial reaction by the officers.
An officer makes a stop and that window's down and that window goes back up, that he or she has no idea what's going on inside that car. And so it becomes an issue of safety, and it becomes an issue of control.
He added that this could have been handled differently. And the Empire State Building is paying tribute to African-American icon James Earl Jones, who died yesterday at the age of 93. In his honor, the building's X account posted a video of Darth Vader's iconic walk projected on the side of the building. It wrote, "Rest in peace, Lord Vader." And that's the latest. I'm Esther Dillard from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
SIG alerts been issued in Lancaster due to a brush fire that continues to block Highway 138 between 210th and 245th, as well as 170th Street between Highway 138 and Lancaster Road. There's still no estimated time of clearing or containment, so please be advised and drive with caution. In Pomona, a stop delay from Holt Avenue continues as a crash remains moved to the right shoulder of the 10 east after Highway 57. Studio City's stall has been moved to the right shoulder of the 1-1 north after Coldwater Canyon Avenue, with a 15 to 20 minute slowdown that continues from Hollywood Boulevard. And in Compton on the 91 east at Central Avenue, accidents on the right shoulder with a slight delay running heavy from Avalon.
Some people just know the best rate for you is a rate based on you with Allstate, not one based on anyone else. So if you drive safely, you could save money. Good to know. Visit allstate.com or call for a quote today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Body cam video released by the Miami-Dade Police Department revealed agitated behavior on the part of police officers and Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Hill was pulled over for a traffic violation Sunday morning a few blocks away from Miami's Hard Rock Stadium. During the encounter, Hill is heard telling one of the officers, "Don't tap on my window like that." The officer was tapping on Hill's rear window to get Hill's attention. Hill had rolled up his driver's side window and was refusing to roll it back down. The officer, losing patience with Hill, then ordered Hill to step out of his car. When Hill didn't comply, the officer and another officer pulled Hill out of his car and handcuffed him. The Miami-Dade Police Union issued a statement saying Hill was uncooperative. One of the officers was placed on administrative leave pending an investigation. Hill was not arrested or charged, but there certainly will be more to this story. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today. Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelenos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
Looks like Bobby needs a ride again.
Grab the keys. Let's take our auntie to the swap meet. Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, do it all in a Chevy SUV. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% APR on all 2024 Silverado 1500, Blazer EV, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Colorado models. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 12.7%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 9/30/24.
Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
We are back, and Dr. Niambi Carter and Katrina Robinson are joining me in this hour. And in hour two, it's debate, debate, debate. We have 2 debate coaches, 2 debate experts, 2 debate consultants joining us in this hour because we have one of the biggest debates in the history of politics happening tonight, and that's this debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. It's going to be streamed live right here on KBLA after my second hour. So at 6 p.m. PST, you'll be able to stay tuned after my show and listen to the debate. And then there's a listening party happening with Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima. So make sure you tune in. I am broadcasting live from one of the DNC sponsored listening and watch parties here in Los Angeles as a California delegate. California Democrats roll hard for Kamala Harris. She is a daughter of the state, and we make sure we show up in big numbers whenever she is on the national stage. So we're going to be doing a watch party tonight with a bunch of other delegates and providing some feedback and commentary after the debate. But Dr. Hill, Dr. Carter, I'm sorry. Let's talk about Tyreek Hill. That's why I called you Dr. Hill mistakenly. I'm sorry. Tyreek Hill is that Miami Dolphins wide receiver. He was stopped by the police, and it's just something that seems a little different in the reporting about his story. Now, he was pulled out of his vehicle, uh, apparently thrown to the ground, handcuffed. Two of his other players rode by. They were also told by the police to, keep moving. They had nothing to do with this. I think one of those guys ended up in handcuffs as well. But some of the reporting is that Tariq himself was uncooperative, that he rolled his window up when he was told to roll it back down, and that he told the police officer not to tap on his window. And some experts are saying he created a situation of danger for the police. I'm not hearing folks say that the police were 100% right, but nor are they saying that Tariq Hill was 100% right either. Do you sense that there's a little shift happening in the way these stories are reported, or do you think this is just nuance to this particular story?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I mean, I think people's appetite for these kinds of stories has waned since 2020 when we saw all the big protests. I also think, there's a little bit of like, I'm not going to get upset about a rich guy having to be there like the rest of us. At the same time, I think the officers, yeah, I saw part of the video and he does roll the window back up, but they also knew who he was. And I'm not suggesting that because he's wealthy or because he's famous, he couldn't also be dangerous or anything like that. However, it seemed like the threshold for danger was fairly low, fairly minimal. And I saw how it goes from roll your window down and he's saying, don't bang on my window like that. Like, people might say to them, get out the car. And he's like, I'm getting out. And I guess he wasn't moving fast enough. They grab him, but then he's telling them, they put him in handcuffs and he's like, I'm not even resisting. Like, this isn't even necessary. And it's, one person with a knee on him, another person. Like, I think that's the part. It's like, whatever he had done up until that point, you might have had a leg to stand on, but it immediately went to escalation. And when his teammates are stopping, like, wait, that's Tyreek Hill. Like, he plays here. Like, we're at work, right? They're telling him to move along and they're just really trying to see if he's okay. They're not interfering. They're kind of at a good distance. Tyreek Hill is telling them to be careful. He's just had surgery on his knee. That's how he makes his money with his body. And these people are kind of flinging him around. But the guy tells the guy, drive away. If you don't, I'm giving you a ticket. Give me your license. And the other officer's like, just go away. He's like, he's getting conflicting messages. So clearly, I think this one officer was out of control. And for whatever Tyreek Hill did that made them be aware or have to be more aware of their safety, I can understand that. But it's also when you are the person with the gun and you are in the position of responsibility, you are duty bound to do everything you can to mitigate the harm and the danger. It's not just on that person. And he might have been like a lot of us. I'm Tyreek Hill. I'm not about to carry on, with these police officers. I have money to make. I have things to do. I have a game to play. But it immediately goes out the window when the person that's supposed to be the most responsible person, the person with the firearm and the literal license to kill, is acting like a person with a power trip. I mean, it was really disturbing to see how quickly this moved from a routine traffic stop to an arrest involving multiple people and one officer, quite frankly, who seemed out of control. And I think that's what people are responding to. Whether Tyreek Hill is right or indifferent, right or wrong is not, I think, the core of the issue. If you cannot control yourself any better than this, and you have a weapon, and Tyreek Hill is just a person that's high profile, God forbid, right, what you might do to the average citizen that does not have that protection of notoriety and fame.
No, you're absolutely right. Thank you for that and giving us a good perspective in terms of what was happening out on the streets. What do you think, Katrina? Just feels like, and maybe Dr. Carter put it best when she says folks just ain't that excited about a rich football player being stopped by the police. And, it could have gone left or sideways, but it didn't. And he lived to go to the game. They won the game and kind of life continued for him. Do you think that's the sentiment, or do you think there's fatigue? And the reason I ask is because, the trial started too for those 3 officers involved in the brutal murder of Tyree Nichols. And that's in a state you know a whole lot about, and is barely getting any news. Now, obviously, this is an election year. This is the big debate that's happening tonight. But is this just the country moving away from caring about these matters? Or do you think, it's a little of the rich guy, he'll be fine, and we're too busy to worry about 3 officers on trial because we've got to save our democracy?
I really think it's a little bit of both, Areva, because we're in a climate now where people are kind of desensitized to what's happening when it comes to policing and brutality. But let alone let it be someone who is of wealth or of status, who doesn't have the same plight that the everyday American does. There's always going to be a lack of empathy, whatever the situation is, when someone is in a better position than, a human. It's human nature for a lot of people to feel like, okay, you're in a better position than me, you'll be okay. You can pay lawyers, you'll be okay. And I think that's really what happened with Tyreek. Tyreek is, of course, he is a celebrated athlete where he lives. But in that traffic stop, you can just see that he was no more than NIGGA. Like he was no more than what they saw him to be at that moment. And I think Americans have become desensitized to that. They are used to seeing it. And because there was no harm done to him, there is no outrage. Now, if it went a little bit further and he were hurt in the accident, if he had a season-ending injury, even not even a fatal accident, a fatal encounter, there would have been outrage. But because he walked away from it, he's still rich and he's going to football practice, everything's okay.
What about the Nichols trial, though? Taking place in Memphis, 3 officers who will not plead guilty are on trial. I'm not sure what their defense is because the others have pled guilty. And it's pretty clear, we saw with our own eyes that the brutal beating that young man suffered, but it's not getting a lot of media attention.
I think the media is doing that on purpose. I think it's almost as if, we're tired out, of course, from that situation, but it's such a touchy subject. We've had a couple of the officers to plead guilty and take their plea deals, but we're moving forward in the federal trial with those who they just don't see themselves being able to serve the time for the crime that they're accused of doing. But I think that the media does a good job of suppressing that because they don't want to incite that type of attention during this cycle. There are so many other things they want to perpetuate to the American people rather than talking about officers actually being on trial for this. And I think the other thing is, we're looking at officers of a different race. If it were white officers on trial, we may see a little bit more momentum in the media. But now that it's, black officers being tried for the murder of a black man, it's a little bit different temperature there.
Really good point about that. I think we lose sight of the fact that black officers wear the blue, and there are many black, Latinos, and other officers of color who are involved in police brutality matters all the time. We often see the case against the white officer against the black victim, but there are black officers, unfortunately, that do engage in violating individual civil rights regularly. But the fact that it is not getting a lot of attention is troubling to me as a civil rights warrior, because it doesn't matter what the color of those officers are. The brutality that Tyree Nichols suffered at their hands is what should be centered and what should be the news. But you've got to look, you got to dig in your papers to even find the stories. But we're going to keep lifting it up because Tyree's family deserves that. Our communities deserve that. Doesn't matter those officers' color. They need to be held accountable. And I'm glad that in those cases of the several that have already pled guilty, the courts are talking about very lengthy prison terms, like 40 years for those officers, and all of it very well deserved given the conduct that they engaged in. When we come forward, more about this debate that's taking place in about an hour and 15 minutes. What will Kamala Harris do when Donald Trump starts telling lie after lie after lie? Joe Biden couldn't do much when he was on the debate stage with Trump in June. How will the VP handle the false statements that we know will be a big part of how Donald Trump conducts himself tonight? That and more when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Stay with us.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
Have you heard of the 50-30-20 rule? This can help you spend and save your money wisely. So how does it work? Distribute your dollars into 3 buckets. 50% towards needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% goes to savings. Use this tool to help your journey to financial success. Sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Oh no, stomach issues again? Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools. I thought it was my stomach. People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
I occasionally have nerve discomfort in my hands, so the things I love to do
Let's play something, Grandma.
became difficult as I got older.
If you have occasional stabbing and burning in your hands and feet, try Nervive Nerve Relief. Nervive's clinically studied dose of alpha-lipoic acid reduces occasional nerve discomfort in as little as 7 days with continued daily use. Say yes to healthy nerves with Nervive Nerve Relief. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you have asthma, you know that there are certain things that can set off your asthma symptoms. These things are called triggers, and patients with severe asthma have an average of 8 triggers. It could be pollen, dust, pollution, colds, viruses, smoke, or stress. If you know your symptoms, you have already taken the first step to managing your asthma. The next step is to write your triggers down in a notebook or journal and record your symptoms when you come across those triggers. This will give your healthcare provider valuable information about what you can do to help manage your triggers. By understanding your triggers and writing them down, you are on your way to taking back control of your lung health. Visit luma-edu.com for more guidance. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
We are back, and we are just an hour or so away from the biggest debate in this year's political season. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will take the debate stage in Philadelphia. It will be broadcast to millions of viewers across ABC many platforms, and then there will be lots of clips of it tonight, tomorrow, all over social media. In hour 2, we're going to be talking to debate experts, those individuals who have spent their professional careers teaching others how to debate and consulting with professionals, including presidential candidates on debates. And KBLA, they have their own unique listening party happening. So stay tuned to my hour 2. Then immediately following hour 2, you'll be able to listen to the debate right here on KBLA. And after that 90 minutes, you'll be able to get audience reaction from live guests who will be in stage with Tavis Smiley and Dominique DePrima. I am broadcasting live from one of the many sponsored DNC watch parties that are happening throughout the country, and particularly here in California. I'm a California delegate, and whenever Kamala Harris is on the national stage, her California delegates and those who are a part of her delegation, we roll hard for our sisters. So we're super excited tonight. Dr. Carter, Donald Trump is going to open his mouth a lot of times tonight, and I doubt if any truths will spring forth from those lips. We saw it with Joe Biden at the end of June during that debate, and Biden had a hard time countering what he knew to be just untruth after untruth. some folks say if Kamala Harris spent the night trying to correct those statements, she wouldn't get to talk about anything other than what he's talking about. So, what's your take on how best to handle someone like that lies at such a rapid pace too? Let's put that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with that, Areva. I mean, that's the perennial problem with the Donald Trump. He lies so often, so confidently, and so convincingly, right, to those who are really true believers in Donald Trump. And I think, Kamala Harris, she can say that's not true and keep it pushing, because otherwise she's going to spend all of her time distracted trying to counter what he's saying and not getting to where she needs to be, which is in connection with and in relationship to the American people. That's her audience, not Donald Trump, because we know what Donald Trump is going to do. He does it every single time. And the more, I think, honestly, that she ignores him to a certain extent and let the network do their job. It's the journalist's job to fact check him, not hers. And I think that's very unfair, right? For them to expect the candidate themselves to do that work, because it is so much. It is a volume of lies. And so to expect anybody to be able to do that in real time and be able to respond in the parameters of the debate is craziness. So I do hope that these two moderators will be on it tonight and that they have all the supports that they need so that he doesn't do what he gets to do, which is say these lies, keep it pushing. And then the next time we get to talk about it is the next day. And now it's already in the ether, right? We've already moved on. And I hope that doesn't happen tonight.
It was kind of interesting because last time he would tell a lie and the moderators would say, "Thank you, Mr. Trump," or "Thank you, President Trump," as if he had just said something that was legit. And by saying thank you, it legitimized the statement, but it puts the journalist, Katrina, in such a difficult bind. Because again, if they sat there and, as Dr. Carter said, tried to fact check him, they wouldn't get to their next questions because there's so many lies that are told. I don't understand why with AI we can't have a ticker across the bottom of the screen. We know his playbook. We know his 20 top lies, and every time he tells one, there's like a buzzing sound that goes off, and then the truth just kind of scrolls across your screen. Obviously, the network is not ready for that tonight, but I am concerned that when he tells those lies with the confidence that he does, standing there so tall and with such authority, people take away. I mean, the lie about HBCUs, saving HBCUs, he tells that lie all the time. And I've had people say that back to me. The lie about the best president ever for Blacks. I've heard people say that to me. The lie about the economy. I mean, a lot of his lies people have bought into.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds believable. I mean, Donald Trump, as we've said so many times before on your show, he is a marketing genius. He knows how to tell a lie and make it believable. That's what he's done the whole time. He's created reality shows that people thought were businesses that people thought were viable businesses that ended up in bankruptcy. So he is a master storyteller. And I don't think it's incumbent upon the network to do that. Yes, of course. They're facilitating the debate, but it's just not it's not feasible to do that. And of course, with the restraints that we're working with, you got 2 minutes to give your response, 2 minutes to rebut, and 1 minute for follow up. There's not really a lot of time to insert, hey, let's correct this untruth. It's really got to be to the point where VP Harris's team is ready to fire off what was untruth after the debate, and she's done a great job. Her team has done a great job with communications and how they presented the facts to their voters. And I think after this debate, it's going to be incumbent upon them to come very quickly with those. I hope somebody's telling those as they go, because I mean, she's not going to be able to refute it with her mic off. And I thought that was funny too. I'm sorry to get off the subject, but now Donald Trump wants the mics off when in the last debate he wanted them on, because I guess he saw how much of a fool he made of himself. But I think the Harris team is going to do a great job of communicating to Americans what the truth actually is, and it's up to us to do our own fact finding after this debate, because we know how it's going to go. We know how biased the media is when it comes to him and how low the bar is, and so we've got to do our own work.
So Dr. Carter Michelle, I think, gave us permission to stop going high when they go low at the convention. She told us, take it to them, basically. the VP to do in that regard. She doesn't have to go high anymore.
No, absolutely
So-
not. And shouldn't. I mean, I think that's what people want to see, a little fire in the belly from the Democrats for once, instead of always trying to be so, professorial and so ethical. It's like, no, if they go low, kick them while they're down. It's like, do something. And I do think she has enough of that oomph that will make people tune in again and maybe see, because part of the, I guess, Republican charm is their willingness to break rules and break norms with no compunction, right? No care in the world. Will do it and look you in the face and say, yeah, I did it. And move on. And everybody acts like that is perfectly acceptable behavior. And I think people have been wanting a little bit of that from Democrats. Not to say go overboard, but like, don't be the pushovers and always the ones who kind of standing there holding the bag, still trying to hold up this facade when Republicans don't even try to pretend that they care about norms of civility and all of these other things. So I think that's a little bit of that will be helpful tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we know that VP is a puncher. We know she can go rounds with the best of them. We know that she is not afraid of bullies. We know that she's taken down bullies like Donald Trump in her career. She's taken down cartel leaders and gang leaders and gangsters. So we know that she has, stared down these types of convicted felons. And she's won, which is the good news. So we just have to remember that. Again, everyone, lower expectations. Don't expect to see the Kamala Harris drilling Brett Kavanaugh. This is not a senator's hearing. She does not have, 10 minutes. She doesn't have, the benefit of being the esteemed senator talking to a witness that's trying to get confirmed to the Supreme Court that's going to be kowtowing and capitulating. This is Donald Trump. We know she has everything it takes to be the president of the United States. One debate should not define her and quite frankly, define him. We know who he is. We don't need this debate for him to show us anything about who he is. He's already shown us. So as you said, Dr. Carter, if he can stand there for 90 minutes and act like a decent human being, so what? It doesn't erase what we know about him and his record and how disastrous he is for our country. So let's go into this debate clear-eyed on both sides, recognizing that these candidates have already proven to us who they are and what they will do if given an opportunity to be the president of these great United States. Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. Always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. Thank you, Katrina. You are in D.C. You are in the epicenter. I know all kinds of parties are popping off tonight. So it's going to be an exciting night. Although California is really where the action is, it's really going on. It's really going down here.
Don't forget CBC here. So
yes.
It's a lot going on.
CBC is happening in DC. I'm missing out this year because I'm at home with my fellow Democrats, but hold it down for us, Katrina and Dr. Carter. When we come forward, debate experts, folks who have actually coached and taught debate skills, not just to students, but to candidates. They're going to join me in hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward. Stay with us.